Hey everybody, this is Stel Yefty with Closeout, and in today's video, I want to talk about how to avoid making huge negotiation mistakes in sales under pressure. So I want to give you a quick story and then we'll highlight the nugget, the wisdom, something you can take away from this that will help you avoid massive mistakes in selling. So when it comes to sales, it's not just about winning, it's about avoiding to lose. It's about not just doing everything right, but in many cases, it's just about avoiding making huge, easy to avoid mistakes. And one of the situations that even smart salespeople, good intentioned salespeople, will make big mistakes is when they're under a lot of pressure. So here's a story. I had a friend that I recently helped with a negotiation of one of his biggest customers. This is a customer that has been with my friend for 2 years, has grown steadily, and has now become a really huge deal for his company, and is currently in the process of evaluating alternatives and they are really considering leaving. So in the last few weeks, he's been negotiating with that customer, trying to sign a new contract with them and keep them around. And he's been using me a little bit as an advisor at times to help him in the negotiation strategy, keeping me in the loop, letting me know how things go. And together we were able to move the customer from 99% they've decided they're gonna move away and go with a competitor to 50-50 to 60-40 in our favor. And last week I was pretty convinced that he was going to be able to retain them and keep them and sign the contract and close the deal with them. And then today he gives me a call and he makes a confession. He tells me, Stelly, something happened and I don't want you to get angry. And I was like, oh my God, all right, what? He's like, well, remember last time I had a call with him, a meeting with him actually. He visited them. He drove to their offices, visited them, made a big presentation, looped me in on how that presentation went afterwards. And he was like, you know what? There was a little thing that happened the next day that I didn't tell you about. And I think I made a huge mistake. The next day, that customer had pinged me and asked if I had a reference. Somebody, he's like, I had mentioned to them in the meeting that a bunch of other customers of ours, when they left and they went with a competitor that they were evaluating, that they had to go through a lot of pain, that the integration took much longer, that the pricing wasn't completely fair, and there were a lot of surprising charges and upgrades and upsells, that the entire transition process of going from their solution to the competitor solution took a lot longer and was a lot more painful than anybody expected. And so the customer called him and said, when you mentioned this yesterday, could you put me in touch with a customer that had gone through that so I can ask them some questions? My friend in that moment knew that he should think about this really carefully, but he said, yeah, I can do that. He hung up, and instead of calling me and talking to me about this, here's what he did instead. He thought about it while doing other stuff. He had a bunch of emails, a bunch of calls, a bunch of meetings, and at some point during the day, the pressure had built up to just get the task done. And this has been a negotiation that has been going on for so long that he thought, well, I know this one customer, and I know that they went through some pain when they went through the transition. I'll just make an intro to them. And, this has worked in the past. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe it'll work here. And he just made an intro to them. And then he told me, Stelly, you won't be surprised, but I was when today I heard from them that they are flying to that reference customer that I gave them, that reference company that I gave them. They're flying to them tomorrow to visit at their office and meet with them and talk about this further. They wanted to make a decision today, but instead they're flying to that one. Well, that deal is almost certainly lost now. Here's what happened. He gave them a connection with a customer that left them without ever talking to that ex-customer and setting expectations and checking in and understanding, if I connect you with a current customer that's thinking about moving to the same solution that you had moved to a year ago, what would you tell them exactly today? Would you recommend them to also go through it but just avoid a few mistakes, or would you tell them not to do that? He didn't ask that question. He didn't even set expectation for that reference. He didn't tell that customer, hey, I'm thinking about making a reference with an existing customer or a connection. They want to leave us for the same vendor that you went with. I want to keep them. If I connect them with you, would you tell them to stay and tell them about all the pain you've gone through? He didn't tell them that. He just made a blanket connection. He said, hey, customer A, here is X customer B. X customer B, can you talk to customer A about your experiences with transitioning away from us? And so they talked to them. And what could conceivably be the reason for them buying plane tickets and flying to the other part of the country to visit them in their office? Certainly not to learn more about not leaving. What they most certainly are doing is they heard about all the pain they went through, but they heard about all the tips, tricks, and tactics that they would use if they'd known all this stuff. They heard about their new implementation and the new solution, and they said, you know what? We want to fly over and meet with you and see exactly how you've implemented it today, learn more from your mistakes and your experiences. Maybe we can get connections to your consultants or whoever that vendor you were talking to so that we're set up for more success when we leave. So in that last inning, he was so close to closing the deal, and he threw it all away. Now, I got really frustrated about that. I'm not going to lie, but I didn't share that frustration. I just kept it in because there's nothing really that's going to... My friend, he knew that he made a big mistake. All I told him is I broke down to him why this is a terrible strategy, why he should never use this strategy again. And that at this point, all he should and could do is call the reference he gave and ask that reference how the call went and what the reasons are for the visit and what that reference thinks is going to happen next. And then with that intel, call me and we can strategize what to do next. But the thing that I wanted to share with you, other than that you should never, ever do this in sales, is, just connect person A to person B or company A to company B without controlling the message, without setting clear expectations of both ends, without being part of that. Like, set up a call where you're on the call as well, where you are involved, where you have transparency. You can't just throw away the responsibility of your deal to some other company and do this, cross your fingers and hope. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's not a valid negotiation tactic. So you should never do that. But beyond that, the reason my friend made this huge mistake was he was under pressure. And under pressure, even the smartest people make dumb mistakes. Here's how you avoid them in sales. Number one, you do the first step that my friend did, which is use an external advisor. Use somebody that can help you check yourself so you don't wreck yourself. But then when you have somebody like me or somebody even internally, it could be an engineer, it could be somebody in marketing, it doesn't even have to be your sales manager or VP of sales or CEO. Anybody in the company that's honest, that's sharp, and that doesn't care, not involved in the deal, will not benefit from the deal, closing or not closing, is emotionally unattached. Use that person as a sounding board before you make decisions, before you take any steps. The further along in the negotiation, tough word, the further along in the negotiation you go and the longer you negotiate, the less you're effective in your own ability to think rationally. So you need somebody else. And then the second thing you need to do is you need to be completely transparent with that somebody else. You should not take any steps without looping them in. And sometimes we don't want to loop them in because we don't want to hear their opinion. We don't want to hear a no. My friend probably didn't loop me in because he knew I would tell him not to do this, and he had already promised it to the customer. So that little push and pull, that internal conflict made him just go, well, let me just send it, cross my fingers, and hope they're going to sign the contract. And then I don't have to tell Stelly about all this. Don't do that. When you have a sounding board, an advisor, somebody that's going to help you in the negotiation, involve them in anything, especially when you feel uncomfortable, especially when you feel discomfort about a certain idea or tactic. That is the signal that you're probably about to make a mistake. You just need somebody else other than you to stop you from that. All right? So, and realize you're human. Doesn't matter how senior you are. Doesn't matter if you're the VP of sales. It doesn't matter if you're the founder or CEO. Under pressure, we all make dumb mistakes. When negotiations take way too long, we all make dumb mistakes. I had a big negotiation 2 years ago with one of our largest customers. I've written a book about negotiation. You're watching this video because you think I know a thing or two about sales and negotiation, right? People call me a thought leader, and still I pinged My technical co-founder has no training or authority in sales, but gets it. And I used him every day almost as a sounding board because I knew after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks of negotiation, I had so many other things going on. I just wanted to get the deal done. I just wanted to get over it. I knew I couldn't trust myself emotionally. I knew that under pressure and under business and over a long enough timeline, I was prone to make a big mistake. So make sure you use a sounding board. Make sure when you feel, especially when you want to avoid bringing something up to that person, that you always do. And please, 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 when it comes to giving references that sell, we've done a video about this. I've written a blog post. We'll link up to this here. One of the golden rules is you don't just connect to people blindly and hope it'll work out. You need to be mindful, thoughtful. You need to design the experience. You need to set expectations. You need to be certain about what that reference is going to tell your prospect or your customer. All right, hope this is going to help some of us and some of you to avoid terrible, terrible, bad, dumb, and easy to avoid mistakes in your sales negotiation. If you haven't done it yet, go to blog.close.io. Make sure to subscribe to us. And if you ever need any more help or a sounding board and you don't know anybody else, just shoot me an email, stelly@close.io. I'm always happy to help.